Welcome back to Marathon Phoenix Commentary, Episode 8. Here we go. My name's Ryoko TK. This is about the episode, or about the levels, Alexandretta, which you're looking at now, and the following level, which is the Great Cave Offensive. This first level is a secret level here. It's the second of the 4 secret levels. Much like the last one, there is no objective. You can exit pretty much at any time. The exit is at the other side of this building. The whole purpose of it is to find all the secrets and to get the rocket launcher. This level also has a fusion mortar on it, and it's the only place to get it before you're supposed to get it. So if you miss it here, you're not going to see it again until the level A Change of Seasons, which is a little ways off yet. Not a whole lot to say about this level. It's pretty short. I just made it because I kind of felt like it. It's a handful of small rooms. They're kind of looped in a circle, and then there's nothing but defenders on this level. So I just made it for fun. I wanted to put it in the game because I like the look of it. I like the layout of it. I didn't have any use for it other than just as sort of a non-plot level. So that's all. As far as the layout goes, basically you just find these 2 switches. There's one, and then there's another in another room that makes this fusion mortar accessible. And then there's 2 secrets that have switches in them as well. They make the rocket launcher accessible. Pretty much nothing else to talk about in this level. My original concept for this one was to make it so that the defenders were immune to all damage that wasn't fusion damage. So you had to use the fusion pistol on them. You couldn't cheese them with IMPs. This was back when the fusion cannon fired much more slowly, so it was actually really challenging to fight these guys because you had to be so choosy with your shots, and that was just really tedious and irritating. So I'm glad I scrubbed that idea. It's always good to know which of your ideas suck. Which, to be honest, most of everybody's ideas are terrible. And it's always a good idea to know, or to be able to look back critically and say, okay, this was bad, I need to just take it out. This was bad, I need to rework it into something that's less bad. And you have to know when to compromise your ideas to make something that's actually palatable. Which was a long journey that I had to go down while making Phoenix, let me tell you. These yellow defenders, earlier ideas about Phoenix had a boss-type enemy at the end of every level, and they were always yellow and blue. And basically each level had a different boss enemy. This was when the scenario was a little shorter. And actually, it's a fairly old idea. And that was more doable when the game was shorter. Now, of course, it's 35 levels. You can't have a different enemy at the end of each level, because there just aren't that many. So I sort of scrubbed the idea. Now there's only bosses at the end of some levels. I just kind of use it as sort of like a mother of all enemies type thing. Anyway, this is the level, the Great Cave Offensive. If you'll remember from the last video, the level Vampire Killer is supposed to end by you jumping down a shaft. And in the level transition, you are given an invincibility power. This is told to you in one of the terminals that that's going to happen. So you get dumped into the lava, but you do have the invincibility, so you have time to act. And, of course, if you are creative with your use of the invincibility, you'll find that secret. The objective of this level is fairly simple and fairly straightforward. It ties in with the last level. The whole point here was to invade this base, this underground base, and destroy this big mining machine. As an aside, this is the last level of Chapter 2. Like I said earlier, Chapter 2 slowly introduced the renegade enemies to you. This one introduces the renegade humans. The justification that I used for this is that biological data was harvested from pattern buffers by the renegades and used to create the human clones. Of course, I just wanted a reason to have Vac-Bobs shooting at you, because I really like them as enemies. I think they're pretty fun. And the reason why I put a bunch of Vac-Bobs in this room is because you're invincible. If you're not aware, fusion damage negates invincibility. It's kind of the balancing tool for multiplayer, I guess. If you have an invincibility power-up, the fusion pistol shuts that down. So to prevent people from going all Rambo, or maybe to kind of give the finger to people that think they're going to go Rambo with that free invincibility, here's a bunch of enemies that are designed to counter that invincibility. So it's just a sort of a funny little trick. Anyway, like I was talking about earlier, the point of this level is to find this big mining machine down at the end of a series of caves, and it ties in with the last level, Vampire Killer, which technically, according to these videos, is 2 levels ago because of the secret. Anyway, Vampire Killer is sort of the lead into this one. It's the above ground part of the complex, and you just have to find a way to get down below. So now that we're here, we need to find another card key, much like Vampire Killer. We need another card key. Once you get the card key, you can move on to the other half of the level. I think it's the last time in the game that I used the whole card key thing, because of course it's not actually something that's supported by Marathon. I had to use kind of a kludgy map trick to make the card key thing work. The item itself doesn't do anything. But it was just sort of a theme I went with for this couple of levels. And then once you're in the mine, you just have to break some stuff, and then you have to find the exit. So it's just the conclusion, of course, of the chapter. Once we get to the mine and the mining machine and all that stuff, you'll see it's kind of a setup for a handful of big battles. In typical sort of ending the chapter fashion, I go for the big shots here. This level, of course, has a bunch of bobs and a bunch of vac bobs. It's kind of interesting. Kind of takes a lot of work in order to make these enemies fun to fight. Bob attacks are pretty much impossible to avoid. They use these pistols, and there's really no way to dodge it because the bullets travel so quickly and you can't see them. So either you get hit or you don't. So I actually use the regular pistol bobs, these guys, pretty infrequently, just because it's not really fair to the player to be constantly plinked by these guys. There are some levels in Marathon Infinity that have a lot of bobs, and that's really it's a couple really tedious levels. You have to kind of scum the rechargers a lot because you're just taking damage that you can't avoid. And I guess the balance is that they have basically no health, so you sneeze on them and they die, but that's not very fun gameplay to me. So I use them kind of infrequently just to add a little bit of variety to the monster selection. One thing that's kind of interesting is I did have to change the AI of the bobs. Bobs, as well as enforcers and actually defenders in vanilla mechanics, have a flag called Stay with Clear Shot, which means that they'll move until they see you and they have a clear shot at you. Once they take that clear shot, they won't move again until you damage them. So if you were to take cover, they would move around again until they can attack you. Once they have that clear shot, they just stand in place. So for the Renegade versions of all these enemies, I disabled that flag to make them more aggressive. Or at least I disabled it in some variants, but not others. Because you'll remember in the Vampire Killer video, I spoke about how I kind of changed the concept of monster ranks for the Renegades. This level is also sort of interesting in that I deliberately eschew the map grid in order to make this part of the level. When you're using Forge or Wayland, the cross-platform editor, there's just a grid that you can snap to, and I am highly reliant on that grid for my style for the most part. Make a very blocky, a very rectilinear style. That's just kind of my thing. And you can tell in some maps that I've made that I'm sometimes over-reliant on it. And earlier in my mapping quote-unquote career, I didn't use the grid as much, so I had this more sort of curved and organic style that I stepped away from that. And for this map, the first half of the level is a very blocky rectilinear style. And then I deliberately went off the grid for this part of the level in order to sort of contrast the two sections of the map. It's when when you have a scenario that's this long and all the levels are made by one person, you have to be aware of how to break out of your style, at least in some parts, because you don't want it all to run together. And I've played a lot of Doom WODs where that very problem gets to be a little too much. It's just too much of the same thing over and over and over and over again. So it's important to have to break up that flow in the setting and the style, just to make the whole package a little better composed. So as you can see, of course, this whole zone of the level is all about exposing those 4 wires. You've got the last one here. You hit the switch, then you find a clear shot at the wire and you break it. So it's kind of simple, but it's like I said, it helped me set up this part of the map which has that handful of big fights. But we're pretty much done with the level, done with the chapter. As you can see, I really like the rocky sort of cave sort of setting. I use it constantly throughout Phoenix, meshing built spaces like this one with rocks and caves and stuff like that. I think it's just it's an environment that the engine can execute pretty well. And it's one that stylistically I can execute pretty well, sort of blending in these kind of natural spaces with designed areas. And I'll use it consistently throughout the rest of the scenario. I'm just backtracking this way to pick up a secret that I didn't get earlier. Like I said, the level's pretty much done. I just have to get to the exit. So I'm heading back to the first half of the level. It does fork off in here. There's one route that heads to the exit and one route that heads to the objective. This is the secret. So forking the level like that and making the backtracking part of the level, so to speak, sort of gives an impression, I guess, of non-linearity. Also being able to tackle those wires in any way that you want. Sort of a lazy way of adding more depth to a level. I'm not really that proud of this level. It does its job. I don't hate it, but it's kind of simplistic. I could have probably done more with the setting here. I could have made an environment that features the Renegade Bobs a lot better. This boss fight is just stupid too. I'm gonna let it play out. But yeah, I don't know what I was really thinking with these back bobs. If you kill them normally, just these gold ones, they explode and kill you. And that was actually really cheap design, because back bobs, of course, don't normally do that. So yeah, and then of course you can just cheese them with the flamethrower if you've got it. So not a good way to design a boss enemy. I am more thoughtful, I think, with the other ones. that's the end of Chapter 2. Next video is going to be discussing the levels Pushing Onwards and then the secret level, 4-letter word. Thanks for watching.